Well, hello everyone and good afternoon. Time to start for real now our APA Psychtherapy training. My name is Marta Soto. So what we'll cover today, APA Psychtherapy, we'll do some slides talking about what's new and how we can start your research. We'll spend most of the time doing an actual platform demo, and then we'll have some closing slides, some resources for the road, a bunch of links that you can kind of take with you to learn more about APA Psychtherapy and our other publications. All right, so starting with the basics, we're here to learn about APA Psychtherapy. APA, American Psychological Association, overall has 6 databases. This is the smallest and the newest and the most specialized because unlike other, research resources you might be used to using that are going to have journal articles, dissertations, books, psychotherapy is a compilation of streaming videos. Every video is a 45 to 50-minute standard session between a therapist and a counselor and their client or their patient. So we've got almost 1,000 titles in this database now for you. So the idea between offering this resource is for, our up and coming clinicians, our students who are in those master levels or maybe upper undergraduate courses, to be able to not just read about therapy and the different counseling approaches and how to handle different problems, but actually to see professional therapists handling this. In addition, for anybody who may have a role where you are a practicing clinician or counselor, or some of you may be students or practitioners, some of you here, it looks like you're also faculty and librarians where you're supporting students and educating and supporting, practitioners. It's another good way to just, keep current on new trends in psychotherapy as well. You see, we have some notes here for user scenarios and some information about the accessibility of APA psychotherapy. So I won't read the slide to you, just a little bit of an overview as we go ahead through. So I just feel like APA psychotherapy is a pretty cool resource that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm always happy to talk about it, right? But this summer, we had a significant update to psychotherapy. We added a bunch of new video content. So what happens is, going back to about, I think it was since like 2011 or so, we've had the streaming resource, APA PsycTherapy, in addition to DVD titles that were making this APA video series. So we sort of had, our online videos and our, offline DVD videos going concurrently with different content. And this summer in June, we took all the APA video series that had been only DVDs, and now they are also available in psychotherapy, right? So it basically doubled our content. In addition, the videos we got from that DVD video series go beyond just the 45-minute one-on-one counseling session. The videos will still have that as the core, but some of these newer types, it'll be a little 3-parter. Like you'll start with an interview with the therapist discussing, their approach, then the actual session where you can see it in practice. And then there's going to be a conclusion, like a little roundtable discussion of the therapy session we just saw. So some of these new videos are, longer, and they're including additional types of content alongside. This is that same info in a more graph form for anyone who's a little more number inclined, the database we had at the start of this calendar year, how it changed in June, how much of an increase that is. And of course, like now that the APA video series is being released to DVD and also to APA PsycTherapy, this means that every psychotherapy content edition, like henceforward, will also be bigger. So the June was sort of the big deal where these two video sources kind of came together in the same streaming place, right? But just yesterday, on Monday of this week, we released a more typical APA psychotherapy update. We added 20 new videos, and 4 of them were the newest releases for the APA video DVDs, right? So now that this is established, every time APA PsycTherapy updates, which is about twice a year, it's going to be bigger updates than what we've seen before. So we talked a little bit about what psychotherapy is and who it's for, and how we've made this content upgrade. The other, sort of new angle that psychotherapy is focusing on a little more is including EDI topics, and that, of course, is equity, diversity, and inclusion. This is recently, a couple years ago, announced as one of the central principles guiding APA's organizational mission, right? So as a nonprofit, APA has, guiding principles and missions beyond just let's make more money. So since this is going on throughout APA, of course, APA publishing is, there's always been EDI content, but we're focusing, to make that, gathering more of that type of research as quickly as we can and highlighting that, to sort of catch up to some of the, psychology-wide biases that have existed historically. So some examples, these are searchable and browsable fields that are related to EDI. So we'll show you on the platform soon. If you get into the psychotherapy advanced search page, you can select some of these attributes for both the therapist and the client, the names of some approaches, which is, approaches being something like, the school of thought or the philosophy or the technique behind the therapy. Those approaches lend themselves more towards EDI, and some topics themselves, beyond just the names of disorders or grief counseling or conflict in a family. We find people often going to therapy specifically to deal with issues related to their identities, whether that's being a gender sexual minority or being like a racial minority, or like, a person of color. So these are some topics you can search for if you're using psychotherapy, and we'll see some of these included in our example search, which is coming up now. So another quick pause. I hope everybody got the slide. Everybody's kind of understanding what psychotherapy is and what it's for. Now we're going to go into the actual platform demo. So now you really should be seeing my APA PsycNet screen. Here we go. So I poked my head into the registration questions, as I always do a little bit before today's session started. I'm not sure who's actually here today, but based on registration, we had a mix of students, faculty, and librarians. A lot of those coming from, colleges and universities, but at least one librarian was coming from a hospital. So I know there's sort of different stakeholders as we go forward. I also wanted to mention there was one registrant who said that they're a student and they need a certificate to try to establish their own psychological practice. That's outside the scope of today. If you're here or you watch this later on a recording, feel free to reach out. APA does have continuing education assistance as well as a whole practice directorate to help people who are therapists or are trying to start out as professional, counseling and clinical psychologists. I'm not here to help with your career, only indirectly through pointing you to this useful psychotherapy resource. Also, this is not going to give you any sort of official certificate or license, right, to like be a psychologist. So just wanted to manage expectations based on what we had seen and say, hey, even though that's not part of my hour with you today, that is something that APA can also assist with. And you have questions, put it in the chat, or you can always email us afterwards. I also noticed from the registration that everybody joining us today, it looks like, is coming either from APA PsycNet users or EBSCO users, which is great. Because the very first thing we're going to talk about is access, right? Everyone's favorite pain in the neck, but this is sort of a very crucial first step to being able to access the psychotherapy. I'm guessing some of you may already have it at your institutions. Some of you may be more curious about getting it, but either way, this is how you're going to have to come to access, right? So PsycNet, I'm going to do EBSCO first. EBSCO first. You can find it the way your EBSCO is set up on like a list of databases. So you can, select it on its own to get started. You see there's only like a very short number of searchable fields here compared to a journal articles database. I recommend you search something very simple, get into the actual specialized video platform, and then you can do your search a little more specifically. So I'm just searching for the phrase affirmative in all text. And what we're finding here, this is the one I wanted to open. So if I click this title or I click on watch video on psychotherapy, it's opening a new tab. It's going through the authentication, and eventually it comes to this new URL, psychtherapy.apa.org. And you see here, this is a new platform that's very specifically designed around the video content. So unfortunately, you can't go directly to psychotherapy. You're always going to need to use the specific link for your school, and it's going to start you often on EBSCO, right? You have to find, so you basically have to say, oh, I'm a student, I'm a teacher, I'm a librarian, I'm affiliated with my institution. This is our psychotherapy link, pick a video. And then once you're here, you can browse and search videos more directly. Similar idea, if your school specific link comes from PsycNet, you're going to need to, start on PsycNet. You can do the same thing, selecting psychotherapy and searching. PsycNet also gives you the option to browse to a video that you want to see. So up in browse, if your institution has psychotherapy, you'll see that as an option. So yeah, you can browse A to Z based on titles, but you could also browse based on these different categories. So I'll say, let's browse by approaches. Instead of searching for affirming or affirmative, I'll just open it up. And then this is that same video, and you'll see it'll open in the same way. Now we're on the psychotherapy page. And we're ready to finally actually introduce what psychotherapy is all about. So again, if you're a student, make sure you talk to your librarian or your instructor or your TA that you're using the correct psychotherapy link. If you're a librarian, please know that the link you're adding to your library, like to your LibGuides or to your A-to-Z database list, is not going to say psychotherapy. It's going to go through your main platform. Okay, so here we are. Let's watch this video. So you see right at the top, we're getting this video player, hard to miss. I'll turn that volume off. The captions are on. Standard video controls, restart, rewind, play, pause, fast forward a bit, timestamps going. This is a long video. You can see it's one of the ones that came from like the DVD series we were talking about, starting with the round table. And it's also 2 hours long if you watch the whole thing. We've got full screen options, video and transcript, and we see the transcript over here. It's kind of scrolling alongside the video. Next to transcript, we can jump over to segments. So in this case, as discussed, we've got the core of the video, which is that one-on-one session with therapist and client. We've also got about a half-hour opener, and then what's that, maybe 40 minutes of a clip discussion at the end. So these segments, you'll also see them reflected here as these little chapter gaps. So that's just a little bit of making this video a little bit easier to navigate for you. All right, so scrolling down beneath this video player, we come to our descriptive field. It's got a little summary, analogous to an abstract. Some of you might recognize the searchable terms here, keywords and index terms. This means thesaurus terms or subject headings. So these, you may be already familiar searching via PsycInfo or Psych articles. But of course, there's a lot of psychotherapy specific fields. We're talking about prescription drugs, the therapeutic approach, information about the client. And then scrolling down beyond the sort of descriptive fields, we come to our main browsable fields. So every video is going to have at least one therapist, one approach, and one topic. Some will have more than one, as you see 2 therapists here. So what we're seeing with these numbers is like this is how many are present in PsycTherapy. So, you know, we can open up the name of the therapist and we would see this video plus one more. Or in this case, we can say, okay, what else do we have about gender identity? Interesting. This was 2 last time we did this video. So yesterday's update must have included another new video on this content. Oh yeah, this is exciting for me also. I did this training a week ago and we had 2 videos on gender identity, both from the therapist named Laura Dickey. And now we have a new one, which is combining multicultural therapy with gender identity. And this therapist, Dr. Thema Bryant, I believe she is current, this is Patty, this is the APA's current
Yes.
president, right? Not our
Yes.
CEO, but the
Yes, she's
president of
president.
the
Yep.
members. Oh, very cool inclusion. So yeah, updates all the time. Genuinely unscripted reactions. So yeah, we can get from this, you know, into an even more current one. And again, you know, seeing the fusion of multicultural therapy with gender identity, right? Because most people have, you know, more than one attribute they consider important to themselves. Okay, so that was, you know, accessing video browsing. Gonna do a brief pause for questions. The next thing I want to show you is the PsycTherapy advanced search, right? So remember my advice, don't try to use the advanced search features on PsycNet or Psych or on like on EBSCO. Just come here to the PsycTherapy video site, and this is your best way to do a more specific search, right? So first of all, remember, this is a collection of about 1,000 videos. So your search techniques, if you're trying to sort through millions of journal articles, is going to need to be a little bit different. You know, like it's unlikely that you'll end up with, you know, results beyond what you can comprehend, right? So I'd recommend starting with like maybe 1 or 2 fields that are like really core and crucial. Make sure you're getting some results, and from there you can probably just browse your way to make it more specific. So I'll start, you know, so we were browsing by topic, right? Gender identity. Now I'm gonna browse by a therapeutic or search by a therapeutic approach. So I'm typing in multicultural. It does autofill this for me, which is great because I do not have all of the several hundred approaches off the top of my head. I said several hundred, it's like over 100. Yep, so we got all 3 there. Oh, that is not the right one. I can read words. Multicultural. There we go. But yeah, if you need to delete one, it's just that easy to tick the X. I'm gonna say my client, for client race ethnicity, I would like to see Asian in this example. Asian American, also fine. So that's my 2. I'm gonna add a third because I've like, you know, pre-tested this. Also, my third is going to be the keyword anxiety. And I know for sure there are plenty of videos in this database that at least touch on anxiety. Even if it's not the main topic, it might still come up, right? Because that bleeds into everything, doesn't it? Okay, so we'll run this search. A list of search results. One thing you can see here is it's displaying a combination of videos you see with a 30-minute runtime, as well as segments from the video. So after these top 2, everything has the shorter runtime and it says segment on top. So I can actually go ahead and say, you know, hey, I really only want to see titles or videos in this search and filter, and there we go. This same list is also available up here. If you're trying to run a basic search, you can search all, but you can say, hey, show me a video title, a segment, approach therapist topic. In case you do end up running the search, it's a little overwhelming, generally specifying your content type. Because even if I'm searching segments, there's only 17. Like this is again, the pros and cons to searching the smaller database. Let's open this one with a therapist named Cervantes. Oh, I see. It's displaying a little bit differently because I have previously created a clip of this video, which we're going to talk about a little later. But you can see it starts off the same here, same controls. This is the more classic psychotherapy video where it's the 34-minute runtime. It's just the one client therapist session. You'll also notice this one was filmed in 2021. So it's taking place over, a Zoom-like mental health interface software. The first video was filmed in 2011. So, or maybe it was 2018. It was pre-pandemic, so they were sitting in the same room. But most of the newer videos we're uploading are taking place virtually, since that's become so much the norm for healthcare service. And in this case, when we get to segments, since it doesn't have that beginning session closing in the same way, right? This is just the one like therapy session. So the segments are going to be even more specific. And this is a useful thing, again, if you are a student or you're helping students, like watching the professionals, how to open a session and how to start wrapping things up, in an allotted amount of time is also important. In addition to, the topics in here, let's talk about your mom, let's talk about religion, a summary and the assessment, these different things you can jump to. Again, you see them all over here. We're going to do another brief pause for questions here before we jump into the next thing. So that was really just like psychotherapy basics. You know how to search, you know how to browse, you know how to access the platform, you understand what the video and the transcript and the segments mean, you understand what the descriptive record means. So that's really the basics. The next things I was going to show are, first of all, going into individual tools, since you all are here showing like an extra dedication and curiosity to psychotherapy. And then finally, I'll wrap up our time today talking about the psychotherapy teaching guide. So I'm already logged in as myself, my initials, and you see it's remembering things that I've created from previous demos. So psychotherapy account, log in, log out, create it. This is free to create. It's very easy. You give it a username, password, you're good to go. The important thing to know, this is an APA PsycTherapy account. If you have an APA account, or you have your student network account, or you have your professional login account, or you have your EBSCO research account, it's not going to be recognized here. I mean, for your sanity, you can certainly make it the same username and password. So like this is the login I use to get, my campus academic resources, sure. But the first time you're here, you're gonna have to set it up. If it doesn't recognize your username and password, don't get frustrated, just create the account and then you should be all good to go. So in my profile, we have favorites, lists, and clips. I'm going to go ahead back to the video now so you can kind of see how these also occur on this video. So scrolling down, you can see I had already made this video my favorite. Red stars mean you can add it to favorites. Blue stars mean it's already a favorite, but I can choose to remove it if I want to. Next to these star icons, you see the little bullet list. And this is how we can add your web browsers. Basically, this little list icon, it's for lists, and it'll pop up and you can choose to add the therapist to a list. It'll also give you a prompt to create a new list if that's what you want to do. But yeah, adding to a list, multicultural therapy, clinical psychology, or create a new list. And there you go. If you want to create a clip, and there's the scissor tools down here. So, we have the video, we have our segments, right? But if you need to create something that's even more specific to you, this is how you can create a clip. This is where I should mention that this transcript is also searchable. So basically, I can search the transcript for a keyword that I remember, like strong. It's going to jump me here. So I have my timestamp. Then I can go ahead and create the clip. Say we're going to start there. So once I have a name for the clip, again, the timestamps, I can type them in. I can move the slider, whatever you feel is more intuitive. Making something up for the description, and then create clip. So there we go. All right, so this is kind of how you can play around with the video itself, right? I feel like the icons are pretty intuitive. You've got your favorites, your add to lists, and your scissors means creating clips. Jumping into my profile now, we'll see those same things again, right? The stars are for our favorites. So this is everything I've added as a favorite. You see, it's a collection of videos, therapists, approaches. You can add any sort of content here. And as well as on the video pages, I can remove anything from my favorites if that's what I want to do. Over in clips, so these are the clips I've created so far. These are from older videos, and then this one. And then finally going into lists. You can certainly treat a list as a playlist, meaning it just includes videos and clips. But you can also treat a list as almost like a project folder. This little, I don't know if you can see the very like subtle light gray icon coming through with your screen resolution. But I'm almost thinking about it as, different projects or different courses that I'm involved with. So this is for clinical psych, and this is multicultural therapy, right? So you can add, again, a combination of clips and topics and people and videos. For my multicultural therapy list, I'll go ahead and edit this now. There's one additional thing about these lists that's relatively new is you can add external resources if you want. So this is actually a link to a YouTube video that I was able to add to this list within my PsycTherapy. If I want to add another external URL, I can do that. In this case, I'm going to add a PDF handout. I'll call it. Okay, so this is required. The link, you know what? I did that backwards. Link, text, a description. Optional if you want to choose a little like icon image for this. And it's also asking me to give the sort order, right? There's 3 items already in this list. So by default, it would come to be number 4, but I can also say, oh, let's add it to number 2 and save. So I can go back now to look at my list. And we see it's got this extra bit to it now. Yeah, so those are the, external links as well as our therapist here. So any questions? Oh, there is one more thing I wanted to say about lists, right? So we know how to add items, remove items from all these different places. There's also a sharing component to lists, which you can also access via the edit. So as a default, any list you create is going to be set to private, which means basically, I can see this. I'll log into my account and there's the list. You can also choose to open it up to share, which means anybody who has the link from you can view your list. So now once you set to share, there's a little URL you can share, or you can say anybody at my school, my hospital can see this link that I've created. So yeah, again, this is on the homepage of PsycTherapy. Selecting this icon will take you to the homepage of PsycTherapy, right? You have your basic search, my profile, advanced search up there. We've got our browsable menus on the homepage. So everything we've seen before, with the exception of this in the middle. So yeah, this is, oh, hey, we added 20 new videos yesterday that I was talking about. And then here's the PsycTherapy teaching guide, right? So it's a PDF. It's got this little table of contents. We've got a brief intro, but basically we've just covered that, guys. You know how to find a video, play a video, make a clip, and make a playlist. So you're all set. But if you need a reminder, there's going to be steps in here with little screenshots. A part 3, which is, I can never say this word, pedagogical methods. Sort of more generally how to use psychotherapy in teaching. So yeah, a design for teachers, but again, if you're a librarian or a student or a practitioner, this is useful information for you as well. We see, I'm going to zoom in the text, applications in different types of classes, right? So you might expect, clinical supervision and training, comparing, contrasting psychotherapy, but it's also talking about, personality theories classes. Again, that's the one that struck me because I took a personality theories class when I was an undergrad in psych, and it was like pretty boring. But if it had incorporated some of this therapy stuff, it would have been a little more like, feeling relevant or interesting. So let's go ahead and jump to chapter 7. Uses in personality theories classes. So this chapter 7, it's sort of talking about, personality theory here, trait-based, the history, some exercises, right? Because this is sort of classroom instruction focused. And, observing what the client is doing, some exercises to go along with the video. Discussion questions about the clips, but what's really key here, and suggested reading. Yeah, almost like a little mini syllabus for a personality theories class. But what's really valuable here is this table. It has recommended videos for all the exercises in the coursework described above. So you can find these videos, we've got the ID number, the title, the therapist, but makes it even easier. I can go here, remember our basic search, I can change it to lists and I can say teaching guide. So already baked into the platform from APA staff, we have a bunch of playlists created. And again, these are automatically here for you. And these 8 are corresponding to that teaching guide. So here we go. The ones that were related to personality, 6 in the table, and these same 6 are just listed here, right? So you as an individual can favorite them, add them to a list, or just watch them. And they'll open up in that same video player we're all familiar with now. I'm going to go ahead down to chapter 11. This table, I think, is the most valuable intro to psychotherapy for like a particular type of course, comparing, contrasting aspects. So we've got, again, a little mini syllabus, exercises, discussion questions. Hugh, you have a great question. Are there any features in APA that are not available on EBSCO host? I meant to say this a little more explicitly when I was talking about access options. So let me jump back real quick. You might remember that we got here, we logged in from PsycNet and we got to the video page. And then we logged in from EBSCO and we got to the same video page, right? So this is actually a really big deal, and thank you. No matter where you start, whether it's APA, EBSCO, ProQuest, or Ovid, you end up here. This is the universal site for any APA psychotherapy user. So that is another significant difference from PsycInfo, PsycArticles on the one hand. Yeah. So this is actually the same same site design for all of our users, no matter what platform they start on. So yeah, Hugh, everything you just saw is equally relevant to EBSCO host as compared to APA. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. So, making changes all the time. I know a couple things our platform manager is working on, is trying to, get PsycTherapy a better part of APA's communications, right? Like you can currently sign up for new content alerts for APA journals and books and tests. But we want to, have that easy to do for PsycTherapy also. Also trying to incorporate PsycTherapy a little better into APA PsycNet's advanced search page. I mean, that's a project that's going to probably take, months. It won't be out tomorrow, but, always thinking about how to make this a little easier for our users. And yes, as we mentioned, there was an update yesterday. 20 new videos were added. 4 are that extra long version with the, intro and the roundtable discussion from our video series. Um, so yeah, the first link there is for our blog. That's a place you can subscribe and hear the latest, including, any posts about PsycTherapy updates. Oops. So I'm dropping URLs now. So you can get these URLs from the slide if you've downloaded. I'm also sending them in the chat, trying to make it a little easier. So yeah, blog updates for our products, including every time PsycTherapy has, a content change or, a new accessibility update and things like that. If you are interested in signing up for an institutional trial, there's the link for that. Next page. So this one is sort of, a big bit of link farm resources and training for APA databases. This will include some PsycTherapy content. The main thing I'm going to add right here is our webinars page. So all these, sort of training resources on apa.org, they're kind of all interlinked. I've just dropped the one that goes to our webinars page. Patty, if you want to add some dates and details in the chat, go for it. I'm doing 2 more sessions of this PsycTherapy training this fall. So if you came late or you feel like you missed a bit, you can come back, you can watch the recording, recommend it to a colleague. And Patty is also doing a series of both beginner search and advanced search for PsycInfo. So a little more general for everyone, but also, she's getting really good registration at hers. So yeah, feel free to share those dates. There's a little training widget here. And you can bookmark that page because any upcoming trainings that Patty or I are doing will be listed there. Dates and descriptions. Something new so in June we had a thesaurus update. 76 new searchable terms were added. You can see some of the current topics, and these thesaurus terms are also going to be searchable in APA PsycTherapy. So always got to mention when something's new. Thesaurus updates also happening periodically. Another good way to stay in touch via the blog. We'll always give the details about new thesaurus terms there. PsycInfo Research Services. Did a whole webinar about that last semester. If your institution has APA PsycInfo already, you should look into some of these research services that are being added on top. They're tools for serendipitous discovery, analyzing and filtering data. It's an email subscription that adapts to your preferences based on which links you open. There's a lot going on here, sort of building on top of that 5 million record data set that's in PsycInfo. So yeah, again, it's free to sign up as an individual here if you already have APA PsycInfo. And if you want to know more about that, send me a chat, send me an email. Kind of hard to summarize briefly, but it's interesting and useful, and it's growing all the time. So as I had mentioned earlier, APA is a nonprofit mission driven, which is different than some of your other top academic publishers. So it's important to me that, I'm working out here, for the publishing unit. I collaborate with sales and marketing, right? But like at the end of the day, if we're selling these databases to you, it's not trying to give our CEO a second yacht, but like any money we get, first of all, we hope the resources will genuinely help you. And any money we get from our publishing sales, it goes back into the nonprofit to support the APA mission overall, right? That mission being to promote the advancement, communication, and application of psychology to benefit society and to improve lives, right? So some of that work is done in classrooms, right? If you are working with future or current, or you are a psych therapist, a clinician, or a counselor, like you are doing amazing work, especially at this point where, we know that demand is outstripping supply. Additionally, of course, some of this work, human to human psychological assistance is, of course, happening outside classrooms and outside official therapy sessions. Many of you may be recognized on campus as an expert in psychology. If you're the librarian who built the LibGuide, if you're the faculty, if you're the TA, if you are a professional psychologist, people might think of you if they're experiencing a psychological problem, right? So for whichever sort of space that you have, if it's a course page, a professional page, a library database guide page, I would say please consider linking to some of these help resources, um, as well as I've put here in the chat, like an overall APA topics guide, something that, if somebody's looking for help, they can sort of find something, and, maybe they're not ready to ask in person, but you can still be providing them some APA, approved resources rather than them just like, Googling or finding whatever's trending on TikTok. And if you're a student, obviously you're not equipped to be anybody's professional assistant, but you might know a little bit more about psychology than some of your friends, right? So maybe consider bookmarking this topics page, in case somebody or you yourself are struggling. These topics deal with, less dire, but still important day-to-day issues. Um, Everything from artificial intelligence to eating disorders to gun violence to friendship, exercise, the importance of sleep, So much of what we do really relates to psychology. And, just we're all trying to do what we can to help each other at the end of the day, right? Okay, my final closing slides and our final closing minutes. Um, these are some, whoops, going back, some sort of free resources from our APA journals. So if you do not have access to psych articles, the spotlight and the editor's choice may be of particular interest to you because you can get some free content that way. Of course, I subscribe even though I do have free access just to see what's going on in the journals world. If you do have access to psych articles, consider following our special issues page on the journals. That can certainly be another serendipitous way to find something relevant to your work. Or if you're a student, to find an idea for a research project you may be trying to work on. Librarian toolkit. We're still pretty near the start of the semester. If anybody wants to promote, that it's your campus library providing these resources to everyone. I know some people think they just sort of magically appear when it's really, the budget and the work of librarians who gets them on campus. Okay, so yeah, just in the end, this is how you can contact Patty and myself. We both do training and we both do support. That final link I've shared is for It's an FAQ page. There's also a place that you can submit some questions to us. So it doesn't go into a black box. We take turns checking this throughout the day, every business day. If there's something, if you have a question related to this training, you can even mention me in your email and say, hey, Marta, I'm thinking about your psychotherapy training. I have this question, and I'll be happy to reply to you there. Okay, so thank you all. You've been very friendly and very patient. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes, give everybody a chance to like go through the chat, grab what they need, any last minute questions. But again, thank you for spending this hour together, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.